Hey everyone, Pushing Film here. Today we're on the Melbourne streets shooting street photography again, 2 days before Christmas. And today we just want to do a quick video on how to choose your first film camera.
Yeah, we had this question sent in to us by a few people. They just want to know what to look for in your first film camera, when you're buying one, when you're getting one hand down to you. I just finished a roll of Sunny 16 film on my Nikon, so I thought it'd be a good opportunity to open up the camera and show you inside what to look for, and we'll show you a few cameras and give you a quick guide. We won't make it too comprehensive, just a really basic guide on what to look for. Cool, let's hit the streets. So we're doing this video a little bit vlog style on the fly. Please excuse our video quality so far. We're not experts on video, but we're trying our best. So yeah. I'm on the way to drop off this roll of film, and I thought we're going to walk past some camera stores, because I think one of the first options most people think of is buying their camera from a store, and there's a few benefits to that and some downsides to that.
So this FE2 that you have, FE. Where do you get from?
I bought mine in a store. Yeah, got a pretty average price on it. Didn't need much service.
And was it bang on, straight on, or you bumped into problems and you had to go back and request for another one?
Yeah, I tested it in store, and we're gonna go and show them how to do that.
Yeah.
Cool. So you can buy from a second-hand shop like this. These cameras probably won't have a warranty on them. They're all under $100, and it's likely that they're going to need some kind of service or repairs. But with some stores, you can buy a camera for a higher price and it will come with a warranty. Obviously, you're going to pay a lot more and you don't have to worry about anything being wrong with it. But if you do buy something in a bargain place like this or an op shop, there could be still, a chance of getting it working for a decent price.
So, recommendation for your first film camera doesn't have to be great, just something very simple. We recommend a 35mm camera with a fixed prime lens. If you do buy it from a well-serviced shop like I did in Japan, you're pretty much ready to go. But if you do get it from a cheaper alternative, Hashim has some tips that he'd like to show you on how to check your camera.
Sure. We recommend going with a simple SLR because it's going to be an easier tool to learn on, so you don't need to spend too much money. So one of the first things you want to check is, believe it or not, the battery. You won't believe how many times I get someone come in and say something's wrong with my camera and it's basically just a little battery. So what you want to do is find out if your camera uses the battery. Usually it's going to be on the bottom here or in a little tab out the front maybe, but most commonly, little coin, you can open up the battery cover. So most commonly you will have a couple of little cell batteries like this. That's actually one of the more common batteries. So first thing you want to do is check that, see if it's good, maybe even bring a couple with you. You can buy them from a shop that sells watch batteries or any of your local stores like that. If you don't want to spend that much money, you can actually get heaps of these on eBay in packs of 5 or 10 for $5. Very cheap. Alright, so the first thing you want to check is the shutter, the most important part of the camera. Put it on a few different speeds and see that it's going off at the sounds about the right speeds. So slow speed sounds slow, and as you go to a higher shutter speed, it should be obvious that the shutter is firing off at all the different speeds. If your shutter advance is not advancing, it might be stuck because of the battery being dead like we mentioned, and the light meter not detecting enough light if you have an automatic mode. So try taking out of automatic mode, check that battery again. If you've just put fresh batteries in, then you know they should be good. And you've also often got a little battery check meter here which you can test, which might have a little light or a beep of some kind.
So you got shutter covered, and then you have to look at lens because you need the lens to actually make decent photos, right? So what do you look at on the lens?
So with the lens, one thing you want to look for is make sure it looks clean and clear, no fungus or mold. So sometimes if you look through to the light, you can see fungus growing like spider webs into the lens.
Sometimes when you take out your dad's lens, it has those really hazy kind of
haze. Yeah. So when you're buying your first camera, it doesn't have to be perfect, but it should be able to be nice and clear when you look through it, like a pair of glasses. A few dust and scratches won't really make much difference, but as long as it looks pretty clear. And the other thing you want to check is all the apertures are smoothly changing with a nice little click. One other thing to mention with the aperture is to test that the actual aperture is closing and opening at the right place, you can just change aperture, cock the shutter, fire it, and have a look through. Maybe put it on a really slow speed or even on bulb, just so the shutter stays open longer and the aperture closes longer. So when you advance and you fire the shutter, you should see that little aperture blades close down, and try a few different numbers to make sure that they're working.
And how about the sticky ring sometimes when you get from old lens?
Yeah, so absolutely. This is an old camera I bought for $10 at an op shop, and you can see that the aperture here isn't quite as smooth as on my Nikon, and the focus ring is a little bit sticky. There's some grease build-up, and the lens is not as clean and clear as you want, but for $10, like, that's still going to do the job.
Yeah.
I won't actually see much difference in my photos. So if I'm just learning, this is still going to be a good option. Alright, so the next thing you want to look for is to see that your shutter counter is working. As you fire off test shots, the number should increase. Now, let's say you are at roll of film's end and you want to test the next part is you've got to rewind. So before you rewind, there's a little button on the bottom of the camera here, which is the rewind release button. It might be on the front here with the letter R or something, but what happens is when you press that, it'll release the spool and allow you to rewind. So just make sure that's also moving smoothly, but right now we're going to use that to open up the camera. Have a look inside. So just pull that up. And in here you can see when I press that little button, that allows that spool to move backwards. So when I'm rewinding film, that needs to be able to be released. When it's not,
It's going the
unlocked,
other way.
that's actually locked, so it won't turn backwards to keep tension.
Yeah.
So you want to make sure that little rewind release is working, otherwise you have trouble with rewind. So inside the camera here, you want to look for nice clean light seals, which is these black sort of foam parts in the door. You'll find them inside door seals here, and most importantly, the ones on the actual door hinges here are what commonly cause a lot of light leaks in cameras. So with this camera, you can see the light seals are pretty good. With the Casino that I've got here, you can see these light seals are a little bit moldy, dry, and they're probably going to need a change. But you can still run a test roll through, and the results will speak for the light seals usually. So if you're not getting light leaks, you don't need to change it.
So obviously, like you pointed out, these parts need light seals. What happens if I do put a roll of film in and I do get weird, like reddish light leaks?
Yeah.
Or even blue.
Yeah, if you get bad light leaks, you can change the light seals yourself. If you don't want to pay too much money, you only want a cheap camera, you're learning, a light seal change is actually a pretty easy fix to do yourself. You can go on eBay and you can buy a pad of stick-on light seal like that, and look up a DIY guide for your camera on how to change the light seals, or there's usually a general guide on how to change them. Yeah, it's pretty easy. All you got to do is cut little strips. Most important is to change the parts, the thicker parts near the door there, and sometimes you've got light seals in the mirror, but I often will just look around with that. So another thing worth checking is if the camera has a self-timer. So that's where it is on that one, same spot on this one, probably the most common spot for a self-timer. The way it works is shutter is advanced, you cock the self-timer. As you release the shutter, you'll hear a buzzing sound with the little timer handle moving down there, and eventually the shutter should fire. A lot of the time, the self-timer is the cause of a stuck shutter advance. So if you've just picked up a camera and you still haven't figured out you can't advance the shutter, make sure the self-timer is back in the neutral position, otherwise it won't be letting you release the shutter.
So after you check all of your other parts of the camera, including the aperture and shutter mechanism, you already know that your camera is functioning. But what also is good to have is a light meter. So most modern cameras have light meters, and it either is a needle or, like my Leica, has two pointy arrows. And it should come on in how you react to light. So try to point in a very dark area and a very bright area, and it should at least fluctuate. So even if the light meter does come on, you want to test if it's accurate. So what you can do is very simple solution is on iOS or Android, there is a light meter app. So just cross-reference with that, and it should be within the same ballpark. If it's not, then most likely your camera needs a light meter fix, or there will be other problems with the electronic issues.
Now, worst case scenario, if someone buys a really cheap junker like this and either the light meter doesn't work or it doesn't actually have one, is it still worth using?
It's definitely still worth using. The only issue is like you probably want to pull out your phone just to check the light every now and then.
Yeah. All right, so that's all the basic tips we have. The next thing I'm going to do is grab a roll of film and run it through this cheap test camera that I bought and see how this one goes.
So you have all the basic knowledge of how to choose your first ever film camera. What we like to do is we would like to try it for ourselves, and we never test this camera before, and we'll show you results when we get it developed. But also we encourage everyone else to find their cheap camera and just enjoy film as it is. And if you do get your results developed, please do share it with us. Tag us on Instagram, send us an email. If you run into any problems, please do leave us a comment. We're more than happy to help you resolve your issues.
Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Thank you.
Phil.
See you.